What else are you planning to purchase? Machines, materials?
If you carefully noticed, just now when we showed the footage, the powerful press is actively working. When the press precisely stamps the packages carefully assembled for the angle grinder, a complete package consistently comes out every 16 seconds. Yes, one operator can put them into the container, but that's not right, because the operator should be doing other tasks. This is an inefficient use of resources, so we definitely need a conveyor system to feed into the container and a stacker. All of these additional components and processes inherently cost money. But you can do without it, though the cost price will be higher. If you have the funds, you can install it. But right now we're breaking segments, and the situation is even more complicated there. 2 people are needed, because the segments come in a continuous stream. One person has to catch several at a time, like 100 or 150 segments, form them into a stack, and at that moment the second person has to catch the incoming segments by hand. There's another effective way. If you have the necessary money, you can certainly install a cross-conveyor system and then a longitudinal one together with an efficient stacker.
Could you please tell me, at the beginning of the project you wanted to produce miter saws along with the angle grinder, but then it all seemed to fade away.
It didn't fade away, not at all. They're still in the lab. It's just, you see, here's how it all happened. It happened because we started working with Interskull, but then Interskull changed direction, decided to focus on BLDC, and everyone knows the result. The Interskull brand now belongs to the Chinese. But the significant investments made, the considerable time spent, the extensive effort, and the valuable human resources, you simply can't just dismiss all that, right? Just like that. No, that's precisely why this endeavor continues. That's why we fully intend to keep going forward, and that's why we're diligently working on developing built-in motors that can be effectively utilized in a very wide and diverse range of machine equipment, including specialized tools like miter saws and also powerful angle grinders. Because an angle grinder is the most complex solution. It's a solution where it's very difficult to implement the drive. It's easier in machines, so that's how it is.
How much higher is the efficiency of our angle grinder compared to a brushed one?
Brushed motors generally possess a relatively low efficiency. In general, brushed motors typically exhibit low efficiency. However, due to their inherently high specific power and their impressive high RPM capabilities, they became widely adopted and extensively utilized across various applications. It was precisely brushed motors that made modern power tools possible. They served as the foundation for modern electric tools. Later, BLDC motors were added to the mix. Previously, it simply wasn't truly possible to successfully manufacture asynchronous motors due to significant technical limitations, particularly regarding the crucial aspect of magnetic flux. Our innovative windings ultimately made it entirely possible to effectively overcome this challenging and persistent problem. But now, with modern technological advancements, it is indeed possible to successfully make asynchronous drives, especially high-frequency ones. This represents significant progress, a clear and undeniable evolution in motor technology. That's precisely why asynchronous motors, particularly at very high operational speeds and with exceptionally high linear velocities of the rotor's outer surface, consistently demonstrate a significantly higher motor efficiency when compared to traditional brushed and even BLDC motors. Thank you.
I recommend covering all circuit boards and microchips with opaque epoxy so they can't be copied, or at least to make it more difficult.
You just put it under an X-ray and it gets copied easily. You see, the thing is, there are special protective coatings, specifically silicone and polyurethane coatings, that should be applied to circuit boards to protect them from aggressive environments, because angle grinder operate in tough conditions. Moisture, abrasive materials, ferromagnetic particles, and all sorts of other things, including even feces, which can be encountered in everyday life, on construction sites, and in industrial settings. That's why the motor windings are specifically and reliably protected. Of course, we can provide different protection classes because the varnishes we use now polymerize and have very high mechanical resistance to friction and temperature effects. And the vacuum impregnation unit, which is the very latest one we've successfully launched and is currently being thoroughly tested today, is actually a highly efficient cooling system. because the impregnation varnish absolutely needs to be consistently kept at a precise temperature of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius within this specific range to ensure its proper flow, optimal permeability, and to truly make the most of all the significant advantages that advanced silicone-based varnishes inherently offer. This particular unit allows us to effectively accomplish all of that, and in a single efficient load, we can meticulously process up to 800 kilograms of product. We can then thoroughly impregnate it with the desired substances. Moreover, we can do this in several stages: vacuuming, pressure, in order to ensure 100% removal of air from there. And right here next to this unit, there are cabinets for drying and polymerization, which is why such coatings are extremely necessary and not just for protection against copying. Thank you.
Dmitry Alexandrovich, hello.
Good afternoon.
I have a question. I'd like to know, in your opinion, I remember you always make statements only after the fact, but I'd like to hear it straight from you, even if it's a very cautious opinion. When will the first dividends be? I'm thinking it will be in 2027, but in which quarter? Thank you.
I said not by quarter because, look, as I've already explained, you have to work through the whole year. After reorganizing into a joint stock company, the work continues. Then the results of the past year are evaluated after April 1st of the following year, once the report has been submitted to the tax authorities. After that, a shareholders' meeting is scheduled at which a decision is made regarding the distribution of payments. So it turns out that we work for a year, and then almost a year later, the payments are made based on the results of that year. Unfortunately, that's how the law is set up. Thank you.
Is the only thing preventing us from starting production and sales of our product the lack of an occupancy permit?
Not only that, some equipment has not yet arrived. Yes, right now, the samples of the product that will be made, we will start shipping them, but not in large volumes yet, because some processes we are still doing, let's say, in a primitive way, since the necessary equipment hasn't arrived yet. But the pace will keep increasing. Thank you.
Is there any understanding of when the APC will be operational?
You know, we've just recently received these new encoders, but they are primarily based on bearings, and right now, at this very moment, we simply do not have any free hands available to dedicate our time and effort to work on them. As soon as we have the necessary time and resources, we will absolutely bring them up to the elevated level that was originally and precisely intended from the very beginning of their conception.